Who lets a children choir sing like the main part of a song nowadays?
Yeah.
You know, who does that? That in combination with one of the most, I would say, like groovy drum breaks, you know, that you can make, and with the bass line, it sounds very disco-y, and it's rock music at the same time. Hi, my name is Joris Voorn, and these are my 5 essential tracks.
Joris Voorn, welcome to 5 Essential Tracks.
Thank you very much. Very nice to be here.
Let's just start off with track number 1 then.
Yeah, I think track number 1 would be Pink Floyd's "Another Brick in the Wall." It's one of the first serious bands I listened to, Pink Floyd, and I think that in itself has left a big influence on me. Mm-hmm. My parents had 1 or 2 very early Pink Floyd albums, which were very abstract, weird sounding music. And I didn't really understand it at first. But I listened to it over and over again, also because I didn't have anything else to listen to. So
we don't need no thought control. Hey, teacher, leave them kids alone. All in all, it's just another brick in the wall.
And the whole album, the Wall album, was something that was really intriguing to me, and the fact that there was a whole story going on, and that in combination with a movie that I saw much later. But I think it gave me a sense of what music can be, rather than having a 3-minute song. It can really be like songs can be 10, maybe 20 minutes long, and you can see that on every single Pink Floyd album. Sometimes it's the whole side of an LP. And I think "Another Brick in the Wall," I chose that as the first track because maybe it's not my favorite Pink Floyd song, but I think it's the one that most people will know, and it's definitely still something that I think it's incredible, like what these guys made.
It stands for something bigger.
Yeah, I think it stands for definitely for something bigger. It stands for the whole album, and it's you know, they simply don't make music like that anymore. I mean, you can say that of a lot of classic records.
Why don't they?
I don't know. Like who lets a children choir sing like the main part of a song nowadays?
Yeah.
You know, who does that? That in combination with one of the most, I would say, like groovy drum breaks, you know, that you can make, and with the bass line, it sounds very disco-y, and it's rock music at the same time.
And a great narrative.
Yeah, of course, yeah, and a great story. It's conceptual music at its best, but it's also very, very accessible.
Track number 2.
Track number 2, Frank Black, the Vanishing Spies, track number 2. I think the second, so the Pink Floyd was the first serious band I started listening to, and then the first, I would say, more like contemporary band at that time, like early 90s. For me, was the Pixies. I became intrigued by the way they created a sound and an atmosphere, like almost like a galaxy of sound. Yeah. And Bossa Nova was actually my first introduction to the Pixies, and I think the combination of the very strong guitar sounds and the surf kind of echoes and reverbs, in combination with extremely well written chord progressions, and a little bit of guitar solos here and there, and the weird, strange lyrics of Frank Black and his screaming voice. I think that opened a whole new world to me, and I've never found any better in indie rock music than that. Actually, I was like everything. I was looking for that sound in every single track and CD that I could listen to, but I never found something that gave so much of an impression.
Yeah, say it's nothing but sky, and I'll be a lonely guy. The Vanishing Spies, just something I read.
Frank Black, obviously, I think he's the musical mastermind behind the Pixies. It still is, I think. Joey Santiago, maybe that's the guitar player. He, of course, made like all the great riffs. But then Frank Black went on writing really amazing music after he closed the Pixies down. And I think his album Teenager of the Year is a very chaotic, very kind of... it's a very strange album, but it has some of the best songs I've ever heard.
Track number 3.
Track number 3, I guess going into the moments I started listening to electronic music, was listening a lot to VPRO radio and Studio Brussels music that was being played. There was a lot of rock music at that time, but slowly but surely there was more electronic music from bands like Underworld. Most of the house music that I listened to on the radio was pretty crap. But then I think there were bands like Underworld, Left Field, and also to a certain extent Portishead, like everything that was more electronic but still had vocals in it. Things that people could relate to. So Underworld, and then the opening track of their second toughest album, that gives me goosebumps until this day. They have very clear drums. Like it's very there's a lot of space in between all the sounds. Like it's open. It's very open sounding, which I think and very clean as well. You know, and it was very strange for me to listen to when I heard it at first, but it really intrigued me. And I think that kind of clean sounding 909 bass drum sound is something that I've always really loved, and the precision of that sound is something that I've carried on to my own music as well. Track number 4 is another track that I listened to when electronic music was introduced to me, to say it like that, which is Halcyon and On, and that's Orbital's track. Beautiful track sampling. I forgot who they're sampling, but it's like very beautiful esoteric voices. And they also made techno sound very human, very emotional at the same time.
You obviously started off in the traditional way, I would say, with the Pixies and Pink Floyd, and when the cool electronic stuff came up, did you have to convince yourself that it was okay to like it, or was there an instant click? I
think there were steps in between. Like for instance, listening to Nine Inch Nails, you know, which was obviously very electronic, but considered
industrial.
Yeah, industrial. I always loved industrial from the very first moments, because it had like loud guitars and very rigid drum programming. I was even listening to Nerve, which was Junkie XL before he was Junkie XL, and that was very electronic, but very rocky at the same time. And I think that opened the door for me to make the next step.
So track number 5, your last track in 5 Essential Tracks.
Track number 5, I guess that was my probably my first introduction to Detroit techno. Carl Craig is one of my all-time heroes when it comes to Detroit techno. And Atlas was on a compilation that I had from the Belgium RNS Records. It was on there in between a lot of like strong techno and all kinds of music, but Atlas really stood out. It's beautifully crafted Detroit. It's hardly even techno. It's more like just general electronic music, kind of simple, but with the most beautiful chords you really can imagine. And it really touched me in ways that not many of these other tracks, even the tracks I mentioned before, had touched me before. I I think the magic element was in the beauty and the simplicity of the chords. It's basically just it's very jazzy. Like it's a jazzy chord progression with some delays on top, which makes it very spacious and open. And there's some very jazzy drums on top. And a little bass line comes in, but that's about it. There's not a lot more in the track, but it's just the way it's arranged and the fact that it's you kind of you can listen to it like forever.
Joris Voorn, thank you so much for handpicking your 5 essential tracks.
Thank you very much. It was a great opportunity. Thank you so much for watching this video and listening to the music and the talk about the music, of course. You can subscribe and leave a comment. We would be very grateful. Thank you.